Max, the one to watch for the best in entertainment, now has live sports with the Bleacher Report sports add-on.
5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go.
Stream hundreds of select live games from MLB.
That's gonna go!
NBA, NHL, U.S. Soccer, and NCAA Men's March Madness.
We just see what we think we just saw!
And it's all included for a limited time with any Max subscription.
He got him!
After the promo period, add it for $9.99 a month. Base subscription required.
Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
Serie A Chronicles is a Serie A Chronicles production.
Lazio in piedi così come quella della Roma, il rinvio di Provedele finisce qui. La Lazio ha vinto il derby numero 179 della capitale, battendo la Roma per 1-0. Ha deciso la rete di Felipe Anderson al 29esimo minuto del primo tempo sul clamoroso sbarione da parte di Ibañez, e la Lazio che così scavalca la Roma e sale al terzo posto della classifica e raggiunge di conseguenza l'Atalanta.
Hi everybody and welcome to Serie A Chronicles. The morning after, well, so it's the lunchtime after the night before, this feels like, because this was the weekend when we had the Derby d'Italia, we had the Derby di Roma, and we had a little bit of a warm-up for all of that with Atalanta Napoli on Saturday as well. Huge weekend in Serie A, and Mina and I thought, why don't we get an extra person on to help us get through it all? We've got Adriano Del Monte on today as a special guest who was live at the Olimpico. I'm going to bring him in just 1 second, and Mina as well. Just wanted to let you know before we get started today that we have been talking about what we're going to be doing when the league takes a break in just a few days. We're going to be doing some sort of World Cup podcast. We haven't quite worked out all the details just yet, but just so you know in advance, even though Italy aren't there, we're going to give you some content through the World Cup as well. So that's to look forward to. Also, my producer wants me to let you know that we've got Patreon videos now. So we're going to start uploading video content of our podcast onto there so that you can watch us as well as listen to us if you so prefer. But Mina, hi, and also hello to Adriano. I guess we should start with the important question for Adriano, which is, Adriano, you were in Rome, you were at the derby. What did you have for dinner before the game? After the game, probably, is an early kickoff.
Wonderful question. Great to be with you both, as always. You know how it is when you're traveling covering these games. I didn't actually get to eat before the game. That was the sort of day I was having. So, but I did get myself, obviously due to the very, very nice and the friendly 6 p.m. kickoff, I was able to enjoy a nice carbonara after the match had finished. So I had a 10:30 p.m. dinner last night, not too far from my hotel. And it's been a busy week, but certainly a good way to end the week with another Derby della Capitale.
Absolutely. Mina, can you rival that Sunday night dinner, or have you got nothing to match that?
I don't even remember what day it is at the moment. I feel like I'm really... Have you ever had that feeling when you just wake up from a nap and you're like, where am I? I feel like that right now. So
yes.
Yes, all I can tell you is that when I travel to Italy, I always end up not eating because of the timings and everything's closed. And I get used to London where there's always food at any time of year. And it's just not like that around everywhere else.
Yeah, that is true. It's very different in Italy. I always think when people ask me for the Olimpico specifically for that, there's a little place called Trapizzino near the stadium that does these sort of very Roman sandwiches. They've got, if you're brave enough, you can have things like tripe in them, which is a very Roman dish. Personally, I can't stomach tripe. It's not for me, but they have some less controversial choices as well. But we should get to the game. Let's start with that one. There were 3 really big games, as I said, this weekend in Serie A. But certainly the Derby di Roma was one of the big ones. Lazio beating Roma 1-0 despite no Milinkovic-Savic, no Ciro Immobile. I think if you'd said that to me at the start of the season, I would have been pretty shocked that was how that game would shake out. But of course, the Derby is always the Derby. Adriano, let's start with the, I guess the big picture question. You were there live. Did you think this was more a reflection of what Lazio did right or what Roma did wrong?
Very interesting way to put it to get going. Obviously, the match from the atmosphere and that experience always lives up to expectations. The match on the pitch, a strange one, especially the first half hour. Both teams very, very slow to get going. Obviously, Lazio taking a full advantage of a mistake defensively by Ibanez, and then Felipe Anderson with the goal. Look, in the end, I have to give the credit to Lazio because they held firm. They've been so strong defensively over the course of the season. They were without arguably their two best players, and they come away with 3 points in their away Olimpico visit. So a slightly hostile atmosphere towards them, and I was very impressed with the way that they stuck firm, and then they held out. They got the points. Roma, I was very disappointed with particularly their attacking approach, particularly their lack of creativity and idea in the final third. Zaniolo, Tammy Abraham, there were just not enough answers on the night, and they just didn't feel like they were going to score. I was watching the match from pitch side, and I was in the Roma attacking half in the second half, and with exception to one or two half chances, which weren't even really there, I just did not feel that the response was coming. The hunger was there from the Lazio players. They were going in for their challenges. They were passionate, and in the end, I think it was the fair result. Although Mourinho, I think, disagreed with that post-match. But yeah, in the end, for me, fair result. Lazio, very, very important 3 points, of course, now to get back up to third.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting that the way the two teams approached it, because it felt like a game. Both of these teams, to some extent, I would say more Roma normally, but perhaps the balance shifted for Lazio being without Milinkovic-Savic, are quite content playing without the ball. And at times it felt like that was a real awkwardness on both sides, was how are we going to be the one counter-attacking? And it made for a very strange game where you had two teams that didn't quite know what to do when they had the ball, seemed much happier when they didn't have it. Mina, I know you've just been having looks like you have some mic issues over there, but I'd love to get your perspective just on how Lazio handled the lack of Milinkovic-Savic, because I think when you watch them normally, so much of their play goes through him, so much of sort of the play out from the back just goes straight to him, and it's like, okay, you start things for us, the ball goes here. And without that, they looked a very different team. What did you make of Lazio Son's SMS?
I have to say, I kind of like the fact that Sarri is very much like, okay, I can't entertain the crowd today. I don't have some of my best players, so I'm just going to play the game that will ensure the results. And it's like, yes, we're all becoming a little bit more pragmatic, out with Guardiola, in with Mourinho type of tactics. But I think that what's really interesting about this is I thought this was kind of like the dullest game I'd watched. And you would think I'd get used to that watching Juventus under Allegri, right? Like I've been getting so much nap time. Yeah, I really do feel like it was so dull. And what you felt in this match more than anything wasn't really the tension, or it was a game where neither side wanted to lose. It was a game where you missed Dybala, where you missed Milinkovic-Savic. It was more about the absences than the players present. And I think that makes for a tough game to watch, to be honest with you, Sarri just seemed to be out there to be like, all right, Mourinho, I'm going to do what you need me to do. I'm going to get the points and just be really predatory and opportunistic. And when we get the chance, we're going to take it. And they did. And one thing that I have to credit them for is the brilliant defense that they've had. But I think what's interesting in all of this is that I think it's about Lazio. Lazio right now are a side that, okay, they have shocked us against Salernitana, but otherwise they play really good football. But what we're seeing now is that they can do anything that you need them to do. So they'll get you the points either way. They won't always entertain like they should, but I think it's about right now they're strong defensively. We know they're good attacking when going forward, but they were without their two best players. And for Roma, I think there's more questions to be asked here, because why are they so bad in attack? And I do feel sorry for them in the sense that Tammy Abraham is not really scoring the chances that he was scoring. Belotti, Shomurodov, all these options that they have are not really enticing to watch. They circulate the ball far too slowly. And they do make mistakes at the back, so they can't really just rely on just having a solid defense. And this is the problem that they have. They need to improve their attack. We thought we'd see more of it. And is it now just totally dependent on Dybala? Because Zaniolo is great, but he's like a guy who just wants to do everything on his own all the time. So it can be frustrating to watch. And no one is very good at finishing. So are there more questions for Roma? It's not even about the loss, because I don't think Lazio was spectacular. So it's not like I'm saying, oh yeah, this is brilliant from Lazio. We always expect more. But for Mourinho, which way is this team going to go? Because I don't see enough in defense and I don't see enough in attack either.
Gosh, there's so many layers in what just got said. Peel
the onion.
Well, Roma are having problems up front, and without wanting to hammer one guy, Tammy Abraham is in nowhere near the form he was last season, and that is hurting. I think you can see that two ways, one of which you can sort of put responsibility on him. The other way you can look at it is to say, well, gosh, how much did he mask last season by playing very well and taking those chances last season? Because to me, the team doesn't know how to play out from the back at all. And I think that's exactly why they conceded the goal they conceded, is because Ibanez got some pressure put on him. Pedro was smart. Pedro was on top of him quickly. And Ibanez just, to use the word that I feel like our old friend Gab Marcotti might use, or I feel like I hear in the American media, he shit the bed and he turned around and didn't know where to go with it and got dispossessed and it all went wrong. And yeah, that is something that, without wanting to hammer the old points again, it's very classically problems Mourinho teams have had in the not so distant past in other places too. And is that magic starting to wear off? I want to sort of see it from the other side as well, which is, we talked about the Lazio Salernitana game quite a lot. And in my head, that was just this big collective sort of psychodrama that everyone had after the Milinkovic-Savic red card, where everyone lost their minds. Because actually, this is now 7 clean sheets in the last 8 games, I think, which, then it's not just Roma who've looked like they don't know how to attack against this team, is the point I'm trying to make. And I think I sort of want to, in particular, highlight a bit of...
That's true.
Of one particular player, which is Romagnoli, who had a really good game against, of course, his former club. Romagnoli, who we had such sort of high hopes for as a young player, never quite sort of got there at Milan. I talked about this in my little voice note I did last night, but I sort of just want to re-highlight it. Yeah, he was the kid who grew up a Lazio fan, played on the other side of town, didn't play in the final, was on the bench in the final in 2013, and was enjoying the fact that he was on the side which he called the right side last night. And yeah, I don't know, Adriano, if you got to see any of the up close with the Lazio celebrations. I bet he was enjoying himself quite a lot.
He was. I was very close to those plays. That's always special to see that post match, and Romagnoli extra special, of course, for he not only after putting in a very good shift as well, but again we've touched on the attacking woes of Roma. Nicky, I absolutely agree that the credit has to also go to that quality of Lazio, because we take that Salernitana match away from the season that's been. They've conceded 5 goals in 12 matches. It's ridiculous numbers that they're putting up. And again, to do it without obviously their 2-class players going the other way, they're a team under Sarri which are, again, doing what is required to be done. And that's offering another element, another string to their bow, which Mourinho's side at this stage, if they don't even have one string, especially when going forward, it was frustrating to watch. It was really fascinating to watch the differences between the fans throughout the night pitch side as well, because obviously the Roma Curve, especially in that second half there behind the goal, they were just, for once, they were losing a bit of that energy, a bit of that passion, because they really didn't believe, as I said earlier, that something was going to happen. And I know we've touched on it, but I just want to bring up the one player who I feel really, he didn't unlock it last night, but he has that quality that potentially Dybala can offer when he returns. And it's my fellow Italian-Australian Volpato, who came in from the bench last night. He just offers something slightly different that those other attackers that started with much more experience just didn't offer last night. And particularly Zaniolo as a player, Tammy as well, who is a little more reliant, obviously, on others to bring him in. But they were lacking ideas. They were lacking synergy amongst one another. But when Volpato was brought in, obviously limited minutes again, didn't have a full match to assert himself, but just a lot more precise and confident within what he's trying to achieve, always looking to go forward, always looking to create and bring others into it, and quite clean consistently. And I felt he did offer something, but again, not enough around him for that to come to lead to a goal or at least a good opportunity on the night. But I certainly think they will be reliant on a Dybala to return, the continual development of a Volpato, because for Mourinho at this point, those players are simply lacking. And that's why we're seeing absolutely nothing created on the other side, especially against the top six, because that's where Mourinho has consistently struggled against the very best in Serie A.
I wanted to ask you both actually on this level that you're talking about. Volpato offers something different and why Dybala is important. I guess why you realize the importance of Dybala in this is because he elevates the game in the final third. He sort of stitches it together and he can help be the man that sort of brings it all together. But I feel like Rome is like that all over the place and they sort of need a Dybala in every department. Is that what it is? Do you feel like sometimes they're a team of individuals, whereas when you see Lazio, even the way that they defend, it's a proper unit that's compact, that defends in a tight, 3 lines. And that way there's no pressure really on the back line because they have support from their midfielders, from everyone doing their job. And do you think that would be the main problem between Roma and Lazio, or the main difference right now is that one is a fully formed team and that can make do with some absences, whereas Roma, you feel Zaniolo or Volpato or whoever it is, there's always this hero complex there and not enough players like a Dybala to sew everything together.
It's definitely doesn't feel very sort of knitted together. And I was thinking about this in terms of last season, because of course last season was within sort of parameters. It was a successful season. I think winning the Conference League certainly sort of changed the perception of it, right? Without that, you might have looked at it and gone, well, it was so, but because they won that competition, it meant a lot. And I was thinking how much, we talked about it at the time, like how much of Mourinho's great success in that first season was the story that he spanned, because the Conference League mattered in Rome because everyone went with him that it mattered. It mattered because all of the fans said it mattered, because all the players said it mattered, because he said it mattered. And everyone agreed that it mattered. And I think it gave the whole environment such a lift. And I think that it probably did mask some of the things that weren't right with this team. Of course, you're going to miss a player like Dybala. And it's worth saying as well, they were missing Pellegrini in this match as well from the 53rd minutes. They were missing him for most of the second half. And so you're taking a lot of absolute quality out of the team. But I think without those players, certainly you looked at them going forward and there was that sort of waiting for Zaniolo to do something. And Zaniolo has talent, but it's a deeply individualistic talent, which I think is what you're saying, Mina. Like, he's someone who you sort of don't feel like is part of something. It's like, get the ball to Zaniolo and he might do something for you. And so, I get where you're coming at there. And it doesn't, I don't know. In the end, to me, it still just comes back to what I said before, which is I don't believe this team knows how to play out in a sort of planned way from the back. It knows how to play out by drawing opponents on and getting them to overcommit and creating opportunities. And Lazio refused to do that, especially after they scored their goal. And the Roma, to me, didn't have an answer to it. I don't know if, Adriano, if you have a different thought on that.
No, I'm with you there. And I was just going to touch on, obviously, the fact of comparing which is the stronger unit, the stronger team. The goal showed that. The Roma defenders essentially in no man's land and then passing up a soft chance out of nowhere, and it's 1-0, it's game over, 3 points to Lazio. Again, I do feel you're onto something there, Mina, with regards to they do need that additional player in each position to really connect the team, and it's just lacking at this point. And not to just highlight Zaniolo, but he was the one last night that every time he was in possession of the ball, he would try to do things himself, try to create a chance for himself, and then at the last moment, if that opportunity wasn't there to shoot, he would just play a bit of a nothing ball quite consistently, and it would be turned over and Lazio would go ahead. And it was, again, that was very frustrating from a Roma perspective to watch up close there and live last night. So, look, I think Mourinho, they've got 2 more matches now before the break. I think it's important that they respond immediately, and then, well, hopefully for their sake, they can pick up 6 points. But there's a lot of work to do. Dybala obviously will go to the World Cup. It's looking likely. Hopefully he comes back fit, but they've got a lot of work to do. If top 4 is the goal, remember pre-season, in the lead up to the season, people were suggesting Mourinho and Roma were Scudetto contenders. So there's a lot of work to do to live up to anywhere near that level of hype that we saw only a few months ago.
Yeah, but of course.
So do you think that
that brings in the memory now, and then grab at me now. It just brings in the memory that, of course, Mourinho himself said, "Why are you talking about us as Scudetto contenders? Lazio spent more than us." So Mourinho was always playing
exactly that.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, do you think that we should listen to him because Cremonese and Lecce are the only team that actually spent less than him, or should we look at the fact that CIES Football Observatory recently unleashed the most expensive lineups in Serie A, and actually, obviously, Juventus had the most expensive lineup in their match against Sassuolo. They are followed by Napoli in their game against Hellas Verona. And then guess who? Roma with the most expensive lineup. Intellectual prostitution. That highest wage bill. Should we be asking for more? I don't know, because at the same time, I kind of feel sorry that he doesn't have Ronaldo. I think that's a huge loss as well in midfield. And I just wonder how many of these absences that they have that would have really ensured better play, at least playing out as a team. Because I think Ronaldo is a genius, frankly, I think that would have really improved them. And I do think that he hasn't been able to develop much when he's consistently losing players.
Wijnaldum is a great point, Mina, because actually it's a name that doesn't even come into my head because he got there and didn't play and he was injured right away. But you're right, that was one of the reasons we were excited about Roma this summer. He was one of the signings who made you think, oh gosh, it's a little upgrade.
Yes.
I feel like we could keep going on this game for a long time, but we have got some other big games to get to. So I just wanted to check, is there anything that you guys think we haven't got to that you'd want to mention about this game, Adriano? If there's anything from the stadium that you thought was really important to pick up before we move on to the next big one, which is, of course, Juve Inter.
Was Ilari Blasi there?
I didn't see that. I didn't see Ilari Blasi. I did see Wijnaldum and Dybala after the match, though. They were just obviously with the team as they were making their way out. Both looking fit, walking, looking healthy, so a little inside scoop. But no, look, I think we've covered it well. We could talk about it for a long time. But again, for me, from a fan perspective, any fans watching on, if you need to put a football match on your bucket list to watch from that fan experience, the atmosphere, this is the one. It never ggets old watching and always a joy to cover.
Absolutely. I think Ilari Blasi's old news in Rome. If there was going to be anyone for the gossip mags, Chiara Nasti probably the one who'd be more
exactly. She was being discussed last night a lot.
I bet.
I just thought that she might be there to be showing off the Rolexes that she won't give back to Totti. If you follow the gossip columns, that's what's being spoken about. Become a member at patreon.com/Serie A Chronicles for regular bonus episodes and content.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.